We're now in the home stretch in the Georgia Senate runoffs with 1 week to go. Georgia has already set a new state record for voter turnout and a runoff, with more than 2.3 million votes already cast. That's about 1/3 of all registered voters. This comes as civil rights groups are raising alarms about polling site closures in several counties, making it harder for some voters to cast their ballots. At the same time, Republicans and conservative groups continue to push lawsuits trying to suppress the vote ahead of next Tuesday's election. Last week, a Fulton County judge dismissed a Republican lawsuit that tried to limit absentee ballot drop box hours. And yesterday, a federal judge ordered 2 counties to reverse a decision removing more than 4,000 voters from the rolls from a mostly pro-Biden county over unverified change of address data. Joining me now is Stacey Abrams, founder of Fair Fight. She is also the sister of that federal judge, Leslie Abrams Gardner. Stacey Abrams, good to speak to you this evening.
You as well.
So I have to start with this. How on earth, and this is the number that is most shocking to me, how on earth did you get 79, almost 80,000 people who didn't vote in the 2020 election to come out and vote in a runoff? That's like somebody skipping the movie and just showing up for the post-credit scene. Like, how do you guys manage to get that sort of enthusiasm on the ground?
We've been investing in organizations across the state that believe that cultural competency works. But more importantly, we've been in every part of the state. We've been talking to young voters, talking to voters of color, talking to voters who didn't think this election mattered. But what was also incredibly helpful was winning in November. For voters who thought that there was no point in participating, November demonstrated that democratic values, that progressive values can win in our state. And they want to be part of actually getting that $2,000 check that can help them save their family's home. They want the resources that will come with new jobs. And they know that obstructionism will stop COVID relief from happening and will block President-elect Joe Biden from doing good work. And so they know we need John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock.
In other words, winning begats more winning. And this is something else I think is important. $2,000 is really important in large parts of Georgia, right? I mean, it may not make your whole life move, but it can get you some new shoes. It really does matter. I want you to listen to this sound from Senators Perdue and Loeffler and the different positions that they've taken on COVID relief. And then we'll talk to it after this clip.
I'm delighted to support the president in this $2,000. It's really a $1,400 increment over what we've already done.
The president wants to cut payroll taxes. Are you in favor of that?
Well, I think incenting people right now through payroll tax is one way to do it. I do support that, actually. I support that better than giving just a direct payment like we did in the first round of CARES. I really oppose that.
I've stood by the president 100% of the time. I'm proud to do that. And I've said, absolutely, we need to get relief to Americans now, and I will support that.
Republicans considering that extra $600 in unemployment insurance, maybe $400. Have you taken a position on this yet, where you would be comfortable?
Look, we don't need incentives not to work. We need to get folks back to work. Right now, from what I'm hearing, right. I'm not seeing a big need to extend the federal unemployment insurance.
So, Stacey, do they just not know the position that they took, or do they have no position? What's going on here with the 2 current representatives in the Senate from the state of Georgia?
They are feckless hypocrites who would rather win an election than help the people of Georgia and do their jobs. These are 2 people who have stood by, used the pandemic to profiteer, used the pandemic as an excuse for inaction. They have assailed the very core issues that people need. You need unemployment insurance because your job is no longer there. You need that $2,000 direct payment because your mortgage is still owed even though you cannot go to work. What they have done is signal very clearly to Georgians and to Americans that they have no positions. They are spineless, and they are people who kowtow to Mitch McConnell, kowtow to Donald Trump, which means they will not serve the people of Georgia.
And I want to highlight something that you've talked about in the past, that, it's not just a matter of them standing in the way of COVID relief, but they haven't done much in the state when it comes to things like maybe rural hospitals. So even if I do get a COVID relief check, if there's no hospital in central Georgia or southern Georgia for me to go to get help, I'm still in a bind. Is that something else that they've been failing at?
Well, Jason, let's go a little step further. It's not just that they failed at this. That failure is mostly the province of Brian Kemp and the Republicans in the state legislature. What they have done is actively agitated against support. They have tried to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which for millions of Georgians is their only access to health insurance, because we do not have Medicaid expansion. Yet under their leadership, we've lost 2 hospitals in the midst of a pandemic. Georgia is a fourth of the population of California. And yet, while California has 2 million who've been infected and 24,000 who have perished, Georgia has 611,000 people with this infection and 10,000 people who have died from it. We are too small to have numbers that are approaching the numbers of California. And that is in no small part because Donald Trump, supported by Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue and Mitch McConnell, have done nothing. In fact, have worked against the health care and the needs of Georgia's people. That's why we desperately need Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. They've spent their lifetimes, their work, helping actual Georgians, talking to Georgians, understanding their lives, and doing the work necessary to get them the relief they need.
So while Brian Kemp hasn't really done much for rural hospitals and hasn't done anything for COVID relief and hasn't done anything for people who are losing their jobs, one thing he's always been really dedicated to is voter suppression. What kinds of challenges are Republicans throwing up to try to prevent people from expressing their voices in this runoff? We've heard about changing poll sites, trying to change times to early vote. What kinds of challenges are you and Fair Fight and other organizations in the state facing when it comes to voter suppression?
We've been successful in helping expand access to early voting locations. In fact, today I was in Cobb County, one of the counties that had shut down several of the locations that were active during the general election. I was at the Smyrna Community Center, and the line was out the door and down the street, but it was moving quickly, so it's a good thing. But we also know that True the Vote, a Texas-based conservative organization that prides itself on voter intimidation, has been basically challenging voters across the state in all 159 counties, I believe. They've challenged at least 364,000 voters. To date, 45 counties have rejected their bids, knowing that it's based on very specious information and a poorly reasoned argument. In fact, we know that in Muskogee County, one of the challenges is that they're calling out voters who are in the military service, who often have to forward their mail. They're using bad information to intimidate voters, both by taking them off of the rolls, but worse, their goal is to their voters out of coming because they don't want to be challenged. They don't understand the law. They can't afford attorneys. They simply want leaders who are going to do the work of getting them COVID recovery money, getting them relief, but also building a future that they can depend on. And that's why we need Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to come home permanently, and we need to send Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock to D.C. to do the work of the state of Georgia.
Stacey, I can't let you go without asking this. About a year and a half ago at this time, people were thinking you were going to run for Senate. You're not running for Senate. You have not been a part of the Biden administration thus far. What is your political future? Are you going to continue your focus in Georgia, or are you thinking of moving nationally?
My focus in Georgia and my focus on D.C. is making certain that we send Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock from Georgia to D.C. to serve Georgia and to serve America.
Always the best answers. Thank you so much, Stacey Abrams. Still ahead, will Trump's delusional refusal to accept the results of this election ever end? Or will his henchmen in Congress challenge the official certification of Biden's win? The readout is back right after this.